Shalom, Yasharallah. All praises to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. It's real interesting in regards to this Kanye narrative. I know a lot of brothers have come giving their responses. Different brothers had different takes. But one thing that I have noticed across the board is that most brothers obviously feel that Kanye is controlled opposition. And, when you kind of look at things from a greater scheme, because I was talking to one of the ox in regards to this whole situation, and we understand that Kanye is a pawn. Y'all understand that a lot of these MK Ultra agents and celebrities, they're just pawns. These politicians, they're just pawns. And when you start to look at life as a proverbial chessboard, and you understand that the Most High is the master chess piece master, you start to look at specific pieces and what their roles are. Because when you look at chess, one of the main strategies is obviously you got to move your pawns first in order to do what? In order to set up your more dangerous pieces to either fill out the strategy of your opponent or to set up something bigger for what's to come in the near future. A lot of y'all brothers play chess, so y'all understand many of the strategies. You use pawns as, cannon fodder per se. And that's essentially what Kanye West is. If y'all brothers see this, picture in front of you, it states after the math of Kanye West anti-Semitic comments, and on the Shade Room and on, I follow certain rap pages. They was talking about it. Twitter's talking about it. And there's an uproar in our community, and you got different takes on it. You have people who can see through the bullshit. You have people who don't have any spiritual understanding and can see through the bullshit, calling out the fake Jews. Y'all brothers understand who I'm talking about. And then obviously you have a lot of the bots who are like, Kanye should have been canceled. Kanye's been, you know how it is, bro. And ultimately, a lot of people are just highlighting how basically Kanye got canceled. And it's more than just how DaBaby got canceled. It's more than how Deshaun Jackson got canceled, because them brothers took their statements back. But Kanye was the proverbial sacrificial lamb in the aspect that he didn't backtrack. And you have to really look at it as an example of what may happen, because as you can see, Adidas cut ties with Kanye. Balenciaga cut ties with Kanye. Vogue and Anna Wintour cut ties with Kanye. He was dropped by his talent agency, dropped by his lawyer. His streams, sales, and airplays plummeted. His Instagram and his Twitter have been restricted. His stadium shows have been canceled, and his documentary was shelved. And when you look at things from the greater aspect, even before this situation, look at what happened with Kanye and his wife, quote unquote wife, Kim Kardashian, and what's going on with his family. And basically, you see a so-called black man being stripped of everything that he knows and that he loves. His name, his notoriety, his artwork, his fame, his net worth, his female, and, his friendships. And you have to really look at it and think that I may be in that position at some point in time. Now, none of us had the acclaim and notoriety of Kanye, but again, the powers that be are showing not only the people of the world, but in particular, they're showing us brothers, the brothers who really stand for the Most High, because they know who you are, man. Don't sit here and think that these people can track all this information and they don't know who truly follows and believes in the understanding of the Bible. Come on, bro. They're not stupid. They probably got a file of certain men, especially if you're a leader of a congregation, you're a leader of a camp, you're a brother with a channel, you're a brother with a voice. I can almost guarantee you they probably have you grouped in certain boxes. And when that time period comes where they're ready to make a move on this particular understanding that we brothers and, you certain sisters understand, eventually they're going to make a move, and that's when the onset of Jacob's trouble is going to happen, when the real war on the chessboard is being waged. You see what I'm saying? So getting back into Kanye, just again, understanding that he's the so-called richest man. They say he's a billionaire. He say he's a billionaire. That was just a way to play up Kanye, to make it seem like he's the most richest, influential man on earth. And because he went against the fake Jews, we're going to strip everything from him as a quote-unquote standing point. And if you're a carnal Jake, if you're a Jake who's still living in the world and you put a lot of value on material possessions, you're going to be a good boy. One thing that I had seen, I want to say yesterday, I don't know if y'all brothers are familiar with Kanye. He had a sports agency. I think it's called Donda Sports or something like that. Yay Sports or something. I don't know the exact name. And he had two athletes. He had Aaron Donald, the star defensive tackle for the Los Angeles Rams, Super Bowl champion. And then he also had Jaylen Brown, right? And basically, Donald, he cut ties with Kanye. But Jaylen Brown, not yesterday, but the day before, which was Monday, he basically made a statement saying how despite Kanye's comments, he's still going to, stay with the agency. And then yesterday, he essentially backtracked on it and said, after further evaluation, I realized that Kanye's statements are dangerous and understand the implication of his actions. And basically what Jaylen Brown was saying is, I'm a good boy. I understand where my bread is buttered. I understand that I'm tied into this system. I want the notoriety, fame, and money. And I'm going to buck up to my Caucasian Jew overlords. And I'm going to do what they say because I love money too much. And it's so funny? If you were to go on Twitter, because he posted it on Twitter, that damn plant, Julian Edelman, the same Julian Edelman who they had Deshaun Jackson go on a tour to look at the Holocaust and all this other bullshit, was the same one co-signing saying good job. So they have agents, they have plants, and they want to make sure that their biggest asset, the lion stuck in the cage, remains docile, remains dormant. And I know a lot of you brothers, when you see this storyline, sometimes it may unravel a certain type of fire in you, because you brothers understand our role on the earth. The Most High has bestowed your brothers with some sort of insight, and he's giving you knowledge and understanding to show you who you are and what you were meant to be on this earth. But you also have to understand that time for us to go into battle, that time for us to go into war is not yet. We have to be called into the Most High's army by our captain, Yahawashi, and he has to test us to see what we're really made of, because a lot of brothers is going to be like Kanye. And just to tell you the truth, there's going to be many brothers in that day who got muscles, who got money, who got clout, who got women, but they're not going to have the spiritual might to walk away from the things of this earth, man. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 20 real quick. This is Deuteronomy chapter 20 verse 1. It states, when you go out to battle against your enemies and you see horses, chariots, and the people more than you, be not afraid of them, for Yahawah thy God is with thee, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And again, this is talking about when our forefathers were preparing to go into the land of Canaan to smite their enemies, right? But this is also a foreshadowing of the great spiritual battle that's going to happen predominantly between the Israelites and the Amalekites, but also all the other nations and merchants and people who are set up in the system above us that are going to follow after the lead of the Amalekites. Now, there are going to be some heathen who aren't going to fully buck up to the system. And, if it's the Lord's will, he might spare them so they can be servants and handmaidens in the kingdom. But when it ultimately comes down to this main battle, it's against the tribe that the Most High has indignation against forever. The Amalekites and the nation, the Edomites, the so-called Caucasians of this earth who run the world. They got horses, they got chariots, they got great guns, right? So they're more than us when it comes to their physical might and their military might. But understand this, verse 2. And it shall be when you are come near unto the battle that the priest will approach and speak unto the people. And the high priest in this day and age is Yahawashi. Through the spiritual realm, through his spirit, he is the high priest calling certain men to come into the battle. Verse 3. And shall say unto them, Hear, O Israel, you approach this day to battle against your enemies. Let not your hearts faint, fear not, and do not tremble. Neither be you terrified because of them. For Yahawah your God is he that goeth with you to fight for you against your enemies to save you. And a lot of times, what these, these small hatters do is they use intimidation tactics. And this is the main form of intimidation, because they control the banks, they control the financial system, they control the social media, they control the radio waves. So what they're trying to do is shame you, just like with the JAB. What did they do? They try to shame you, not only with just, propaganda online, but with your family, with your friends, and predominantly for a lot of you brothers who as so-called black men, through the matriarchy, through your mother, maybe through your woman. For those of y'all brothers, unfortunately, if you listening to this, a woman may rule over you. And if that's the case, bro, you got to get your house in order, man. Grab your cojones and get your house in order. There's no disrespect. But again, a woman shouldn't be leading you, especially in these times. And essentially what the Caucasians did is that the Caucasian Jews, to be exact, and the elites who run the society, what they did is they ran a giant psyop to guilt shame you and guilt trip you into falling in line, right? So essentially, that's what they're doing with Kanye. Not only is it a social and a mental ploy, but also the next step is financial. And you brothers have to understand with the MOTB, with the B system that's being set up, that's going to be the next aspect where they strip you of everything financially. And also if you brothers have ties to family and friends, and if they choose not to come in the way as you know, your kids, those things are going to be stripped and taken away from you, just like what's going on with Kanye in a proverbial sense, right? But you have to be able to give up those things in order for you to come on to the other side up top. Let's read verse 5. It says, and the officer shall speak unto the people, saying, what man is there that hath built a new house and hath not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, unless he die in the battle and another man dedicate it. And when you look at this proverbially, this is speaking of a man who feels like he needs to build a house on this side. It could be a physical house. You know, some brothers got dreams of buying a house. It could be a family, you know, like an ancestral house. You know, brothers who want to have offsprings and things like that. You're trying to build up a house and build up a legacy. But when that time comes to battle, you're going to have to give all that shit up, man. And if you're not willing to give all that up, you might as well just stay back. Verse 6, it says, and what is a man that he hath planted a vineyard and had not eaten of it? Let him also go and return into his house, lest he die in the battle and another man eat of it. This is in reference to those brothers who have, for a very elongated period of time, been building up fruits labors through, you know, your trade, through your passion, through your business. Are you willing to give up what you've been trying to cultivate for years and years and years? If you're not able to see it through when that time period comes, if you feel like that's more important than what's to come, the officer is telling you, go back, man. Verse 7. And what man is there that hath betrothed a wife and hath not taken her? Let him go and return into his house, lest he die in the battle and another man take her. And this is in reference, obviously, to the brother who has a woman he loves, women he may love, and he ultimately wants to put the love, validation, and the sex of keeping his woman, because you have to understand as well, when you become a cultural and a societal enemy, the women are not going to follow you. Now, there are rare women who are, so, righteous enough and courageous enough to follow you. But wherever society usually goes, that's where your girl's going to go, unless you're able to isolate her from those influences. So if you put a woman over this battle that we're going into, he's telling you to stay back. Verse 8, and the officer shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, what man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return into his house, lest his brethren's heart faint as well as his heart. And, I was talking with my aunt, he's going through certain things. And basically, one thing I always reiterate is I always say, you don't really know what it's like to be a man until you're fully on your own and you have nobody else to rely on but the Most High and your abilities and your confidence as a man. Because when you live with your family, when you live in an area that's supportive, you've never really been out for dry. And you don't really know with certainty how you're going to survive as far as food, water, shelter, things like that. And when you coming into this time period, when the small hatters take all your stuff, your credit, your social credit, whatever the fuck they setting up, right? And you choose not to enter and you have no finances, bro. You're going to be left with uncertainty. And with uncertainty, it oftentimes breeds fear, anxiety, double-mindedness. But that's why the officer's telling you right now, if you feel fearful and faint-hearted, return back unto your house, unless the brethren's heart faint as well. So you essentially, when you look at these things, you have to be willing to give up these things. That's why Yahawashi said to that man, where he said, if you want to be perfect, sell all the things you have and follow me. And when that man couldn't let go of those things, it was a teaching lesson that Yahawashi used to show. If you're not willing in that day when I need to call upon you and you have to stand tall, if you're not willing to let go of those things at a moment's notice, you don't deserve me. And that's why ultimately the Bible calls upon us to do this. This is Romans chapter 12, verse 1. It says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of the Most High, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto the Most High, which is your reasonable service, and be not conformed to this world. And that's why you have to always keep everything in proper perspective and not be enveloped in the world and be corrupted by the lust of the world, because at any moment this could be you. And this is just essentially the quote-unquote Semitic people's way of showing you, quote-unquote, obviously, because we know that's not true, but this is their way of trying to show you that this is what we can do. And if you choose not to listen, this is what you're gonna have to go through. And only a certain group of men, only a select few group of women are gonna be able to handle this. But I'm speaking predominantly to you men, because you are the heads. You are the ones that have to lead other people if it so be. Whether you have a wife, whether you have kids, whether you have other men who are, lower in the faith, you have to be that stand. And another thing you have to understand is you can't fight that battle on your own, playboy. You have to wait till that time comes. When it's so apparent that they're gonna force you to capitulate, that's when you rise up and say, I'm not doing that shit. I'm not falling for the system. I'm not backing down. But again, you have to be as wise as a serpent and as harmless as doves. That time hasn't come yet. That time hasn't come yet. And you don't want to be like Saul, trying to take, matters into your own hands, that the Most High allows you to be killed and destroyed because you didn't want to wait your turn. The scripture says to not be likened unto one who, starts revolts and rebellions, in regards to the land that he's living in. Unless the Most High tells you to do that, don't do that. But anyways, man, I just wanted to kind of use this as an example, just to kind of, further explain, spiritually the significance of what's going on with Kanye. We all understand Kanye is a pawn. We all understand Kanye has a role to play. And we all understand that essentially, the small hatters, the Amalekites, the Edomites, the Caucasian Jews, they're willing to use anybody as a stepping stone to show you their power. So essentially, Kanye just got caught in the way. It was his turn. He had to do what he had to do. But for y'all brothers out there who understand things spiritually, and you understand what you're a part of, understand that this is potentially and more than likely going to be a foreshadowing when that day comes, when all hell breaks loose and you have to completely detach yourself from this society. So only the strong will survive. Again, the Most High said, when you come is to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. In verse 5, Sirach chapter 2, verse 5, it says, and through adversity, what is it? I forgot the scripture off the top of my head, but gold is tried in the fire, and through the furnace of affliction, acceptable men. So if you want to be an acceptable sacrifice unto Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, then hey, you may have to go through this, and you may have to be a willing sacrifice, man, for the Lord's will. So I want to give all praise to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Until next time, it's the brother Ash Abba signing out. Shalom.